received from Beadsmith, and I wanted to do a comparison between these two. So I've chosen the crystal in both colours, and they are both the £6 size. Now, this is just a small sample 15-yard reel, and this is the 50-yard, so that doesn't really make any difference. Let's take a closer look at them. So this is the Fireline, and along it feels really quite smooth. But the first thing I noticed with the S-Lon Fire is that when you run your hands along it, it sort of feels like it's notches. So I would say that you can feel the twist in it. I think you can say that you can visibly see that there's a very slight but definite difference in size. I think the S-Lon Fire is definitely a little bit thicker, and I think the Fireline is also a little bit clearer. Very hard to capture the fine detail of this, but I can certainly see it up against the black background. This is sort of yeah, slightly clearer. This is much more of a solid white, I would say. So I sat down and had a bead with the S-Lon Fire, and I would say first off that cutting it is very similar to the Fireline. It's both of them are much harder to cut than if you are cutting thread. So the chances that you'll still need special scissors for cutting the S-Lon Fire are quite high. Just like you do with Fireline, it can tend to blunt your scissors if you're not too careful. From a strength point of view, I found that the S-Lon Fire felt really strong and sturdy. Really. It's probably my fault, but I got a knot, and I was up by the eye of the needle, and I tried to tug it a little bit, and the eye of the needle fell off. So it's not a scientific test, but certainly it was strong enough to do that. Maybe the needle would have broken anyway, who knows, but yeah, that certainly happened when I was beading it. It had quite a similar feel when I was beading it. I only tried it with size 11 beads. It does feel thicker, and I wonder how it would go with size 15 beads, which I will have to try next. Was a little challenging. It definitely just feels a little bit thicker. If you get a nice clean cut on the end though, it obviously makes it a little bit easier. Now, this is said to be non-fray, but I managed to fray it. Okay, maybe my scissors were not sharp enough, but I certainly got a point when the end of it sort of split open a bit. Now, in all fairness, I have managed to do that with Fireline at times as well. But I think I just feel that the S-Lon Fire might have a tendency to do it a little bit more than the Fireline does. Would I recommend this? I would say if you're looking for something really strong, I would say give it a go. So many people are just really hardline Fireline fans, and It is not Fireline. It is slightly different. So if you're expecting the same, you'll be disappointed. But if you're opening to try new threads and you're looking for something that seems really, really strong, I would certainly give it a go. I always buy my Fireline from Beadsmith because I know it's a consistent product, and I don't have to worry about rumours of, this Fireline is different or that Fireline is different. It's always a consistent product from Beadsmith, whereas if you're going to a fishing shop and getting the Barkley brand, it might be the same or it might be a slightly different version of Fireline because so many different types. So that's what I'm comparing it to today, the Beadsmith version of Fireline to the new Beadsmith S-Lon Fire. Important test that needs to be made is, can you use a thread burner to bobble up the end of the S-Lon Fire? Because many people use that when joining in a new piece of Fireline. They do the thread burner end, you create the knot, join it up and pull, and it's sort of like, you don't need to tie in the ends. I'm not going to go over that here. Many of you know how to do that. So I've got my crystal S-Lon Fire here and my smoke here, so I've got two different background surfaces so you can see it. And here we have created a little bobble on the end. It's melted quite nicely, just like the Fireline does. So I think that Fireline knot, as we like to call it, will work. And let me show you just a quick demo with the thread burner here. So you can see there, it's nasty smell just like Fireline does. So can't really pull that blob off, so I think it's going to be nice and secure, just like the Fireline is. Now, one thing to note, just like Fireline, it does leave a bit of residue on your hands. Well, it did for me earlier. So it's the same as Fireline. The what they're calling the black here is maybe like black Fireline, maybe like smoke. It's hard to say, but it does leave that residue on your hand. But we all know how to get around that, just wipe it off. Not really a big problem. So there we are, some more testing with the S-Lon Fire. Here's a comparison summary of the Fireline versus the S-Lon Fire. As you can see, the Fireline comes in one extra colour compared to the S-Lon Fire. It has a few more weights. The reel size, similar, but it goes up to bigger reel sizes in the Fireline. But the S-Lon Fire does have like a sample size, 15 yards. The Fireline is more expensive than the S-Lon Fire, but not by much. Both are equally as hard to cut. You need those good scissors to cut it. Both of the darker colours give a colour residue, but it's easily managed. The Fireline feels smooth, the S-Lon Fire feels twisted. Fireline, I would give it a good for a strength feel, and the S-Lon Fire, excellent for a strength feel. Not a technical experiment, just how it feels to me. I would say that the Fireline just very slightly easier to thread the needle with, as the S-Lon Fire has a twisted feel. Both of them pass the melting test with your thread burner, so that's always a plus. I hope you've enjoyed watching this comparison of these two beading threads. If you've enjoyed this, please like and subscribe to this channel.